because I almost forgot to hit the record button to make sure we're recording today. And again, this is our team who's going to be facilitating today's meeting together today. And again, if you haven't gotten the opportunity, please put your name, your district, and potentially your title, and you will see the tiny URL continue to pop up at the bottom of the slides so you can see and have access to our agenda today. But I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Ken Zimmerman from IU13, who's going to talk about a little bit of the big picture around student-centered learning and what's happening with PASCL. Ken?
Thanks, Tim. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's so exciting to be able to see people coming in from all over the state right now. And that really speaks to the heart of why we currently exist and why we developed this as a joint venture between Pennsylvania Department of Ed and PAIMS and PAIU to be able to come together as intermediate units and LEAs to pull together, being stronger together than we are separately. Understanding that student-centered learning is an incredible learning environment that really takes indeed a great work of time and effort to be able to focus, to be able to cultivate in our districts. And so truly, you know that if you've been able to attend some of our other network meetings, we started last May, and really the whole idea is to be able to come together as a state, to be able to bring resources together, to be able to bring understandings of what's going on in different districts around the Commonwealth focused on student-centered learning. How did the districts begin the journey? Where did the journey take them? What are they doing currently in that journey? Understanding that there's multiple entry points into developing student-centered learning environments, and we want to be able to support you along that way. So ultimately, our mission is truly focused on the educational outcomes, being able to come together and understand, what is it that are the strategies and the practices and the resources that we could utilize to really focus on teaching and learning in a student-centered learning environment. And so we want to be able to bring all of us together on a more routine basis, and that's what you see has been unveiled this year for quarterly meetings, to be able to come together, share the stories that have had impact and that have been not only published in our stories to be able to share about student-centered learning, but also hear about all the unpublished stories of what's going on. It might be a neighboring district. It might be a district across the state to be able to see, oh, we're doing this just like they are too, and we can connect with each other. So the heart is to be able to get us together, to be able to collaborate with one another, to truly ignite curiosity, to foster creativity and cultivate lifelong learners. So thanks for being part of this today. Thanks for joining us. We really hope that out of each one of these network meetings that you're able to get what you need. And so you can see from the point that we started in student-centered learning, coming together as a state, to the point where we are now, curating resources and growing the network. We're going to have a focus for you moving forward that we'll talk a little bit more toward the end of today's network meeting for future network meetings. But as always, we want to hear from you. What else would you like to talk about? What else would you like to explore? How else would you like to connect to be able to support you in this statewide movement of student-centered learning? So with that being said, we're truly excited to be able to talk to you about the next steps in our PASCL journey, and that we talked to you a little bit last time about the blueprint that's being unveiled, and it is hot off the press. So we're so excited to be able to have Tracy Rains and Eric Leck here to be able to share the information about the student-centered learning blueprint. Tracy and Eric?
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. As Ken has mentioned, we are going to talk a little bit about the student-centered learning blueprint. Down here, we have a link to our OER Commons group, the SCL group. There you are. I have 3 screens and I lost you. Now I see everyone. So we are very, very excited to offer this resource to districts that are looking to make the transition to a student-centered learning environment. It is important to recognize that it takes a significant repositioning in philosophy and practice. This isn't something that you look at this 42-page blueprint and go, oh, I'm going to start this tomorrow. We understand that. This is just the starting point to help you try and figure out where you are in your student-centered learning journey. It does take well thought out changes in mindset and strategy as you're using the blueprint. But we feel like we have created something that will really help you step by step go through it, no matter where you are in your journey. So the components of the blueprint, there are 5 main components. Again, this is to help you identify your role and what you should be doing within the blueprint. So there's the administration and leadership. We have learning models, curriculum design and development, teaching and learning, and community outreach. Each of these components is outlined within the blueprint and has clear ideas to help you establish where you are depending on your role and what you should be doing moving forward. Eric, do you have anything at the moment? I don't see where
You're doing great so far, Tracy.
Okay.
Keep it up.
Okay. So along with those 5 identifiable roles, each of those components has 5 system components that goes along with it. We have essential actions, we have guiding questions, benchmark statements, and examples of evidence that are outlined within this blueprint. And last but not least, there's the continuum of practice. This will help every district identify where they are within their own journey of the student-centered learning. I'm going to take a second and jump over real quick to OER Commons and just show you the student-centered learning group within OER Commons. You can find the blueprint at the very top of the group. When you click on that, it will take you to the blueprint. One of the things that we do ask is that you check out these little stars once you look through the blueprint, and give a little rating there for effectiveness. You'll see later on throughout OER Commons in the student-centered learning group, there are different evidence-based ideas of how to rate our items that are listed within the group. So we have that. When you click on View Resource, it will take you to the actual blueprint. This gives you an overview. And as I mentioned, there are the different classifications. So administration and leadership. If you are a curriculum designer and you aren't fully interested in the administration and leadership section, you can scroll on down and go straight to page 25 and go and look at yours. Once you're in the blueprint also, you can click view or download here. Once you're in the blueprint, they are very nicely color coded. So administration and leadership has a nice blue color. If we scroll on down, you can see guiding questions, benchmark statements, that examples of evidence. If we keep going, the next one, learning models, and you see the different colors for each section. Usability, essential actions, each of those things are identified within the blueprint. I'm going to scroll up to the top here again real quick so you can see system components that are each identified. And we go all the way up. Here is a great how to use this tool starting section where you gather your team, start the conversation, and move on through. Again, we noticed that not everybody's in the same spot. So maybe you're at setting ambitious goals. You can get started in a different section then. As you scroll through, we also have common language that we are hoping everyone starts using. I've already heard a couple times different people say different things for blended learning. So this is a great way to kind of identify what are we talking about when we say blended learning or online and distance learning, or personalized learning, which is a big one. So that's the basic overview of that part of the blueprint. So now I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
Thanks, Tracy. And again, thanks for giving a great highlight reel of our blueprint for Pennsylvania, our student-centered learning blueprint. I think it also should be mentioned, and I know Tracy didn't scroll all the way to the top, but when you look at the beginning of that blueprint, you're going to see that there were a lot of stakeholders involved in the development of this blueprint, and there's quite a bit of research that went into the contributions of this blueprint. So it wasn't a situation where, you know, we just tried to kind of make things up on our own. We really tried to work together closely to determine how schools are currently working, what practices we see happening, not just in Pennsylvania, but nationwide, to make sure that that blueprint is relevant to everyone. So as you're thinking about this blueprint, you're thinking about those components: admin and leadership, learning models, curriculum, design and development, teaching and learning, and community outreach. It really should serve as an opportunity for you as a school or a district to kind of self-assess. You're going to decide where you are in that journey, and you're going to use those components and the essential actions, guiding questions, benchmark statements, and examples of evidence to really help you determine where you stand. And that might mean you do need to work in concert with your leadership or pull together a team of people from your district to connect around this blueprint. You know, as I look at some of the components, I dive right into those elements, such as under the learning, the learning models area. If you jump to page 23, Tracy, one of the things, like I said, I just try to make this stand out. If your district is working through this and thinking about it, really take a look not only at the overall component of learning models, but if you'll scroll a little bit further down, Tracy, 23, just where I'm looking right now on the blueprint. So we go to centralized solutions. You might start asking yourself, all right, the essential action here is centralizing resources and support systems, ensuring all stakeholders have access to approved technologies. So we're starting to think about the solutions that we have within our district to support student-centered learning. Again, multiple people within your district and people from different departments are probably needed to really think this through. You'll see there are then some guiding questions. What large-scale solutions are used to ensure consistency and support readiness? You know, if you're using a lot of online components, if you're using a lot of technology-enhanced curriculum resources, is there a large-scale system that puts that in front of everyone? Is there an LMS or something like that? And then you have your benchmark statements to say, are we there? Are we really truly operational in this? Do we incorporate large-scale solutions to ensure consistency and support for our teachers, for our students, for families? And how do we know that? Well, do we have sign-offs from our family and caregivers? Do we know that they're logging into that solution that we've provided? Do we have student compacts where we can see that they're working together? Do we even have a student response team that helps respond to each other? We have handbooks. We have the pieces that help that centralized solution. So really bringing that team together and thinking about these different components, the essential actions, the guiding questions, and the benchmark statements could really be beneficial in your work. We can go back to the slides, Tracy. So really, it's about bringing those teams together, thinking about how the meetings start. And maybe that means, hey, we're at a really beginning point for our school district and thinking about student-centered learning. Maybe it's just introducing this blueprint and starting to talk about the terminology in it and what we know and what we don't know. So a lot of pieces can stand out there. Next slide. And so our call to action to you all, as you are within your journey, beginning your journey, or even getting to the end of your journey, take some time, review that student-centered learning blueprint. Think about who your team is, who you're working with within your district to either ensure the continuation and high quality implementation of student-centered learning, or who you need on that team to really get things off the ground so that you can move student-centered learning forward. Also, consider your support agencies that are around you. Each of the intermediate units has designated a point of contact for student-centered learning, so they might be a great place to start to dive into this blueprint and start that self-assessment. Have that guided conversation about what's going on in your district, and take that time to really review. We know it's a long blueprint. We know there's a lot in it, but we know student-centered learning doesn't happen by chance. It definitely requires planning, preparation, and implementation of a lot of components to get there. Next slide. We are going to give a special shout out. As I mentioned, this blueprint was put together not only by members and contributors from all over the state, districts, IUs, etc. But we had some great leadership in Dr. Peggy Schooling and Dr. Rebecca Heiser, who do a lot of work nationally, not just in Pennsylvania, around student-centered learning, online learning, and distance learning. So we give them a special shout out around this blueprint at all times. And to conclude, just want to say thank you to Tracy and let you know that we are here too. If there are questions about that blueprint, we're here to support, and we can help you get in touch with those points of contact at your intermediate unit to really help guide that process.
Thanks, Eric. Just again, it's so important to remember that this does not have to be a new separate initiative of something you need to take on. This is something that can be done in collaboration with the initiatives that you're already working on daily. School improvement, statewide standards, things of that nature that you're already doing. It's just to incorporate the students that are learning and an engagement process into the environment that you're already working on with the students.
And I will add one more element is our team continues to work. Our blueprint team is continuing to work to add additional resources that'll support your use of that blueprint, as well as provide training around areas where we find that we are hearing feedback that this is an area where we're seeing a lot of people are not getting to an operational standpoint. How can we provide some additional support and resource for you there? So know that there is more to come. Our work hasn't stopped with just the blueprint. We plan to add additional resources to support the use of that blueprint.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric and Tracy, for giving an overview of the tremendous resource that the Blueprint has provided to us. Knowing that many of you are just getting to view it for the first time today, it might be a little bit overwhelming, but I think they did a good job outlining some of the tremendous resources that are in there. And we would really encourage you to download that, take some time and opportunity after today's meeting to really dig through everything that's in there, because we really want to use this blueprint as a document that guides us as part of these network meetings moving forward as well. So as Tracy mentioned, one of the pieces of the blueprint is kind of where you are within the continuum of this journey. And you see the first 3 steps are talking about gathering your team, starting the conversation, which we're really doing here today. That's what this is meant to be a time for, to talk through and have some conversations around it. These network meetings are an opportunity for us to share what's going on around the state, but we also want it to be a collaborative time with the folks that are here. So as we continue to share with you about student-centered learning, we do want to transition it more from a kind of sit and get opportunity to more of a participation part of this. So the blueprint does a good job of outlining that. And we really hope that the conversation can start at the local level with your team and having conversations at your district, and then coming to these meetings to talk with other folks about what they're doing in their districts as well. So one of the things we're going to take a little bit of time right now to do is put you into some random breakout rooms for just a short period of time. Now that you've got an introduction to the blueprint and kind of refresh your memory on the definitions of student-centered learning, we'd like you to have some conversations around that. So linked in the agenda is just a simple document that has some discussion questions that you could talk about in your group. Certainly, as you introduce yourself and have some conversations, you don't have to just focus on these different areas, but there's kind of 2 bullet points around the different areas of the blueprint that Tracy and Eric outlined for you that you could have some discussions around that. So as school leaders, what are the conditions that you're creating or need to create in order to thrive in that area? How have you worked with stakeholders, both in the district, in your community? Thinking of your learning models and your curriculum design, how does that lend itself, or what are you doing within those curriculum design discussions that lend itself to allow for more student-centered learning in your classroom? And as I mentioned before, how can you get beyond the classroom, work out to your community, involve other stakeholders? These are the conversations we want to have around student-centered learning, knowing that some of you have been doing this potentially for many years, and others of you are just looking for places to get started. So that's why we're going to put you in just some random breakout rooms and hopefully allow you to view them. So in the agenda, there should be a document in there that takes you to those discussion questions so you can see them outside once we put you into breakout rooms, and we'll keep you there for about 7 or 8 minutes. We're hoping a member of our team can pop into each of your rooms. We're going to try to keep the rooms relatively small just to allow for some better conversation during that time. So I think my colleague Keith Royer has set up the breakout rooms for us. And Keith, how many do we have for us today?
They're all ready to go.
We're all ready to go. So you're going to be assigned a random breakout room, and we'll welcome you back in about 7 or 8 minutes. Right. Are we all back in the main room, do you think, Keith?
Yep, should be.
Okay. Great. So again, we know that was just a short period of time. Hopefully you had the opportunity to connect with some other folks, potentially in your geographic area or somewhere around the state. We hope to do more of these types of breakout sessions around different topics going forward. One of the reasons we're going to ask you to think about your teams within your districts or LEAs going forward is we'd like to pair up some different teams who are at similar portions of their journey around student-centered learning. So this is kind of an opportunity just to chat with some other folks. So since we're all kind of back together in the main room here, I'll kind of look towards our student-centered learning point of contacts, our IU point of contacts who potentially were in some of those breakout rooms, and wondered if any of them had something to share, a conversation or a thought that was brought up that might be nice for the entire group to hear about. So I'll kind of point towards our student-centered learning IU point of contacts first to see if you want to share anything, and then I'll expand it to everyone in the group here. So anybody willing to be brave, come off mute and share something that was discussed in the breakout rooms.
Our team discussed how it was really hard to find time. Time for collaboration, time for training, time, just any time in general is a barrier that we have into getting teachers and students prepared to
Yes, I completely agree with you. And I think probably I see some nodding heads. Time is always that greatest resource. And we're hoping that's what this time can be a little bit, just to hear what's going on. Sometimes it's an opportunity. We meet quarterly just to refocus your team a little bit. Say, hey, have we had this conversation? With all the craziness that comes up, hey, let's go back and revisit. I heard this district was doing this. I hear this opportunity is available. So hopefully we can use these virtual meetings. And again, they're only quarterly this year, and we're going to reevaluate going forward as to how we can create these opportunities, because sometimes you just need to bookmark some time on your schedule to have these conversations, not only in your district, but around the state as well. Anyone else have something that came up from a conversation in their breakout room?
In my breakout room, we were discussing some of the challenges with, again, finding time, some of the lack of substitutes available, lack of development time. And then we also were discussing, some of the different ways to try and get students to participate and engage in a student-centered class.
Great. Thanks, Brock. Appreciate that. Anyone else
Hi,
want to
Tim.
share out?
Our group
Thank you.
talked about transition to badging and where to start. How do you address your parents? Where do you stop? So it was an interesting conversation.
Great. Thanks, Diane. Yeah, I think a lot of us here are looking for those opportunities. How do we think of different ways that we can work to assess our students' learning, whether it's learning progressions, whether it's standard-based assessments, whether it's authentic assessments, and badging is just one of those areas that I know districts are looking at. So those are the types of stories that if somebody's doing it successfully, we would love to hear about those types of things. All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing that out. We want to continue to grow those conversations. And part of the time we're here together as well is so you can hear some stories specifically about some of the things that are happening around the state. So if you've been to some of our past meetings, you'll know that we've had some storytellers from different districts around the state share some great things that they're doing. If you're one of those districts and would like to share out at future meetings, we would love for you to do that. For today's meeting, we're really excited to have Manheim Township to share out a little bit about what they're doing. And my colleague, Megan Smith, is going to introduce the team for Manheim Township.
Hi, everyone. So I am so excited to be able to share my friends at Manheim Township. We have worked really closely with this district over the past few years as we've gone through different iterations of what student-centered learning looks like for us. As they'll share a little bit, we started out with a station rotation conversation specifically, and that's really evolved into station rotation being a component of student-centered learning. So I'm excited to introduce the Manheim Township team. Jackie Druck is going to become a co-host in just a moment, and then she'll be able to share her screen. But I'm going to introduce you to the team of instructional coaches. We have Jackie Druck, who is the STEM consultant, as well as a coach for grades 5 through 8. We have Nick Scales, who is a coach for grades 9 through 12. And then we have Ashley Keith, who is a coach for grades K to 4. And Tim, were you able to switch over?
So I need to give Jackie
Yes.
thanks for the reminder.
So while that transition is happening, I can tell you a little bit about our work with Manheim Township. We have had a lot of teachers who have come through our cohorts. As we had talked about, we are talking through student-centered learning and supporting our districts in that. So we've had a lot of Manheim Township teachers who are coming in, and we've worked really closely with the coaches at Manheim Township so that they can continue to support their teachers. So we're excited to share how they are reviewing promising practices, and Jackie will take it away.
All right, just quickly checking everybody can see that. We got that screen up. Perfect. All right, I'm actually going to let Nick start for us.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Tim. Yes, team and I are very excited to be talking with you guys today. Again, my name is Nick. I am one of the instructional tech coaches over at Manheim Township. And we're going to be reviewing promising practices today and how it relates to student-centered learning blueprint, and just give you some things that we are doing and what we have in the works coming up in the next couple of months. So we're super excited to be sharing with you guys today. If you don't know where we're at, take a look at the map. We're way down there where the red pin is over in Lancaster. And we are a diverse school district with over 800 employees serving over 6,000 students, K-12. And we're going to be talking, like I said, Ashley is going to be speaking. Jackie's going to be taking over here in a minute. We're going to be talking about the projects that we have across the K-12 landscape for you guys and how it's relating to this. So there's our lovely photos again. If you don't know who we are, there they are. Unfortunately, we had one other member of our team, Olivia, who wanted to be here today. She was very crucial in the creation of a lot of these projects that we have going on. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us today. Coverages, as you guys can tell, on a 2-hour delay. Things are a little kind of last second, but everything is good. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie so she can get into the details with you all for today. So go ahead, Jackie.
All right, thanks, Nick. Yes, we are excited to share with you what we've been doing over the last few years. We really have been focusing, as Megan said, on what started with station rotation. And we really let our teachers choose, did they want to attend station rotation trainings at our IU? And then within the last year, the IU shifted what that looked like, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well, offering additional trainings. But we then shifted when we talk about gathering our team. So we had a group of teachers who were doing that, and then we wanted to go a little bit deeper. So our gathering of our team sort of shifted as our focus shifted within there. And we started the conversation of how do we take this student-centered learning that we already have in place with some of our classes and really take it even deeper with especially a focus at our middle school. And we want to share, as we started to have these conversations, we realized we want to learn from what has been happening around us before we start to make any big changes. So that's what we're going to walk you through. As you saw with the blueprint, what we're talking about is reviewing promising practices. And this is really taking the time to research and review examples of student-centered learning initiatives and promising practices from other educational institutions. Sometimes it feels like we're kind of in this isolated world, but we really aren't. We are in something together with other districts around us. So starting with how did we review those promising practices just within our local area? As mentioned, RIU is amazing and offers so many great opportunities, one of which that we really took advantage of in our district was our student-centered learning. In previous years, we did a lot with the station rotation, and now they have this awesome opportunity where our teachers who have gone through that station rotation training can do what they're calling a choose your own adventure. So it's almost a differentiated teacher training. So depending on the subject levels, the grade levels, what they're teaching, our teachers could have that student-centered training for them and look at those promising practices, that research-based instruction in different areas. Subsequently, at the same time, we had a group of middle school teachers who were going through training at the IU with what we call the Adopt a Middle School program. And this was an opportunity for our middle school teachers who were participating with that along with a coach and local businesses. So this really allowed for that real world interdisciplinary connection because we had businesses that were partnering with our teachers and our classes to find ways to naturally connect with the curriculum they were building. So within those two things, the conversations again started to really start of how do we take this student-centered focus and just take it a little bit further. The other partnership within our local area that we worked with was the Lancaster STEM Alliance. My passion, my strength is STEM. So we were able to connect with them. And they were one of the ones that sponsored the Adopt a Middle School. Additionally, we were able to get a grant through them to align our STEM pathways, which will fund some of the things that we're going to talk about later. But also part of that is the STEM Alliance took a core group of leadership from the area. So our superintendent was able to go out to Santa Ana, California to visit the Samueli Academy. And this is a great example. She came back with all of this exciting information to share with us, and it really sparked her excitement about project-based learning as well as student-centered learning, seeing a school in action. She said to us specifically, though, I wish others could come see it because it's hard when only I'm the one seeing it. So that kind of laid sort of a seed in our mind as we continued through our process.
Hi, everyone.
In.
So as all these great things are happening, the coaches are attending different conferences around the state. And one conference that we went to was P&C and KTI, and we had the privilege of meeting Greg Baer and Ryan Brzezowski. And they wrote this book called When You Wonder, You're Learning. And it really focuses on the Mr. Rogers blueprints for enduring lessons for raising creative, curious, and caring kids. And we thought, wow, how can we bring this research back to our school district, especially with our teachers who are already doing a lot of work with student-centered learning, and continue to dive into the research of best practices. So we wrote a grant. And with that, we were approved with our Manheim Township Education Foundation grant. Not only did we want to bring Ryan and Greg to our district for a kickoff, but we thought about creating this authors in residence. So we have this outlined here. We are currently working with Ryan and Greg. We started with an admin retreat in July of 2024. So our admin could get on board. From there, the admin started to develop professional learning for the teachers that's taking place monthly. So teachers are highly invested and digging into the deep research of what are good practices for these student-centered practices of creating curious kids, right? If kids are curious and they're driving their instruction, authentic learning is going to be happening. So Ryan and Greg also came to our district in August for a staff kickoff day, and then they got to meet some awesome family at our Literacy Under the Lights family event. In October, they came back for classroom visits with teachers and students. And then they led a professional learning series with teachers about integrating their passion into teaching and learning. And then encouraging teachers to, okay, now that you're going to integrate your passions into teaching, how can you integrate your students' passions into learning and make that more student-centered? And in the next week, Ryan and Greg will also be coming back to our district to revisit some of those classrooms. They're going to be co-teaching with some of our teachers, which is amazing. And they're going to support STEELs and student-driven learning with our professional learning in our K-5 world.
And so it was with that, when they came back in October, they were sharing some of the research that they had done with districts and learned from other districts, being out from the opposite side of the state, which often seems so far a different world for us. And one of our teachers, Olivia, who we spoke to, couldn't be here, but she said, I used to teach in that school that they're talking about. So that conversation she sparked with them, started talking to Ryan, Greg, and then our curriculum and instruction director said, well, why don't we go out and visit these schools that we're hearing about? Why do we just have to read about them? So our C&I director was able to connect with a district, and we'll talk about which ones it is soon, and set up a trip for us to go out there. So we're going to travel next week, weather pending. That is the little caveat of all of this when we decide to make a trip in January to Pittsburgh. But the hope is that we are going to be able to travel as a team. We will be bringing our director of curriculum and instruction, our middle school principal, 4 of our middle school teachers, 1 from all of the main content areas, social studies, ELA, math, and science, as well as the 3 instructional coaches. And we're going to be visiting 2 districts, the first being South Fayette. This is where Olivia taught. And we are so excited because Olivia was able to be there when they were starting the student-centered shift, as she described it, making STEM and student-centered project-based learning the core of their curriculum. And she has told us so many stories that I can't wait to go out there and see what it looks like now, but also to be able to talk and learn from these schools. How did you make this shift to getting everybody on board? And they're going to walk us through their vertical alignment of STEM K-12 and what are the things that they did from the beginning to get to where they are now, because we know this doesn't happen overnight, right? It's tiny little bets each time that make little changes. The other district that we're going to visit is Ermine Crest Elementary and Middle School, part of the Seneca Valley School District. And we are very excited about this. This was one that Greg and Ryan actually set up for us. They work with them and they said, you know, this would be a really great district just to be inspired by. From what we've understood, their school was named one of Time Magazine's top inventions for 2022, not just in education, but in general, because of how it is designed for student-centered learning. And so we're really looking at how do you make your school principles relevant to all students. Also of great interest is we have a couple of museums in our school district that we've often thought, how do we partner with them? How do we start to make those, again, we've talked about the real world business connections, but how do we make those connections with the museums as well? Because we know that that's within our area. So we are excited to go out there next week and to learn from them and to add to how we're reviewing promising practices. So we'll end with this one quick quote. If we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow. So we are excited to start to shift our learning with what everybody else is going to help us absorb. And hopefully we'll be able to then kind of give back to the group as we learn as well.
Thank you, Manheim Township team. That was awesome to hear how you are reviewing promising practices by reviewing what's happening in other districts too. So if you're anything like me and you're listening to this, you have questions going through your mind of how did this happen and what do I do next? So if you have any questions, we want to give you the opportunity to share those. If you can type those into the chat, I'll be able to read them to the team so that they can keep track of the different questions that are coming up, but they're happy to share anything that they can do to help. While you are typing those questions in, We're excited that this is a really great transition because we're going to continue to have conversations for the rest of our time together about reviewing promising practices and site visits that we can help to support you to see other people as well. So if you have any questions for the Manheim Township team, go ahead and type that into the chat, and they're happy to help. So
Nick.
team, a question coming in is, what teachers, students, community are represented in your team, and what was your recruitment?
Everyone, honestly. We try to make it as much of a collective voice as possible. There's a lot of, I guess we'll call focus groups, really, when it comes to these types of conversations. And if we can bring in from all grade levels, and anybody really who's interested, we put it out there, we kind of make it very well known, and anybody has the opportunity to kind of sign up and be a part of the conversation. We really don't kind of silo it for anybody. So as long as we can keep that open communication with anybody within the district, we're more than happy to, have those conversations with them, because that's where a lot of this stuff happens, is in those conversations. So the more voices, the more questions, the more conversations we can have, the better, honestly.
Thanks, Nick. Another question about time. Time is always a tough one. So how did you guys leverage time to set up these visits and plans?
I can speak to that. So
Okay.
it started with us, we met with our building principal and our director of C&I, and this was something that they both really felt they wanted to have happen. They wanted our teachers to be able to see this. So I think having the buy-in from those two made this possible, because I remember our C&I director saying, well, we can take 4 teachers. Can we get subs? And Dr. Resch was like, I'll make it happen. Like, this was something that she wanted to make sure she could have happen. So we have subs for 2 days. And I think her valuing it helped to make some of that time. And then we just have awesome teachers that when we said, is this something that you would be willing to come drive out to do? They were like, yeah, this sounds great. Like we definitely picked a team of teachers who have already gone through some trainings, already kind of on board with the mindset shift. And so the time kind of naturally came because of the passion and the interest that they come with.
So you had mentioned that your teachers have gone through this station rotation and then the evolving of student-centered learning. And we have a question from another one of our IU13 groups. Thanks, Lori. How did you get that excitement and that relaunch into it so that teachers who think they know what it is are excited about continuing the conversation?
No, thanks, Megan. Thanks, Lori. And I'm looking at your comment within the chat, pockets of innovation. I don't see that. That's a good thing, right? And I think for us, when we started looking at that, and Megan and Keith will say this all the time, station rotation is not a model in a box, right? So when you're doing something like this, you're taking foundational pieces and you're building off of it. And really it comes down to, what is best for the kids and what's working well. And when I look at it, and when we look at it as a team in terms of, is these types of things working? Are these, methods working? You look at, when you're talking about assessment with students, how are you going about it? Are you looking at the student work? Is it viable? Is it being successful for them? And when teachers can see like, oh, okay, something like this has kind of changed my viewpoint on how students are kind of viewing this particular topic or question, that then kind of builds that buy-in authentically in a little bit of a way, because you can see that it's actually working for the kids. Not saying that something else isn't working. There's different ways to get to the same end result, but it might stir up a little bit more conversation. That's really what we're trying to do with station rotation, is build that productive conversation with our kids, and as opposed to more or less a sit and get within the classroom, especially me at the secondary level. But I know Ashley and Jackie will always say that at the middle school and K4 too. But those are just some of the thoughts, Lori, around that kind of topic, just because, again, like, don't take away from those pockets of innovation. They're great, right? There's little building blocks, and then how can you build off from there as well?
Can I pop in?
Yep,
I
go ahead.
also have to credit the IU13 because they have really rebranded what station rotation looks like and the student-centered learning framework. Building the choose your own adventure Our teachers at Manheim Township have really gravitated towards that. So they're able to choose a session that is tailored to their needs. So it's no longer that one size fits all. And the IU is really modeling what that differentiation looks like in terms of, what do your students need? What do our educators need? So I know that there's been a refresh of that when teachers, they'll go through that initial 2-day training of the station rotation model. If they're joining a new cohort, if they've attended previous cohorts, then they still have that opportunity to choose their own adventure. So whether it's differentiated instruction or AI or assessments, they can choose what they truly need. And they also have the benefit of working with their colleagues within their district. So we hype it up. The IU really hypes it up. So I think if word of mouth also travels really well in our district of the success of the workshops.
Thanks, everybody. I know there are some additional questions coming in, and I see Ken answering some of them in the chat also. For anyone who is curious about how do I get this started, touch base with your point of contact in your IU. Each one of us has a point of contact for student-centered learning, and we're constantly working together. This network is created of all of our IUs across the state, so we're constantly working together to support each other so that we can then support you. So thank you again to Manheim Township. We really appreciate you sharing. And I'm going to pass this off to Lori, who's going to talk a little bit more about reviewing promising practices.
Good afternoon, everyone. We do want to spend a little bit of time taking a look at a resource that was developed at our last session. And there is a link on your agenda to a Wakelet on student-centered learning that folks were beginning to share last session. So let me share my screen. And hopefully you all can see the Student-Centered Learning Network Wakelet. And we do have it broken down into 3 categories, one for online and distance learning, one for blended learning, and one for personalized learning. And you can see that each one of these sections does have some resources or some comments listed underneath. So as I scroll down just a little bit, we can see first, Capital Area has their Online Learning Association. So if I click on that, it takes us out to their resource that they have available for online and distance learning. And you will also be able to see as we scroll down just a little bit more that there's another Cyber Pathways Academy out of Lancaster, as well as the World of Learning Institute. And folks that participated in our last session, they were able to go in and share some of the resources underneath each of those categories. And we wanted to make sure that folks that were on our session today had an opportunity, if they so chose, to add any resources underneath those categories. It doesn't have to be a link, it can just be a comment. So participants can paste any web address. You can add some text to any one of those categories to share out with the rest of the group. So we would like to give you some time to do so. We'll probably just, I don't know, Tim, do we have a few minutes that they could maybe take a look at what's there and then add to this resource?
Yeah, I think that's fine, Lori. I think we have some time to do that. The last time, as Lori had mentioned, we just kind of created this and asked folks to add to it. So maybe if you had added to it or maybe didn't have the chance, please take a moment to go through them. You can see, again, as Lori mentioned, they're in 3 different buckets of different areas related to student-centered learning. So if you have anything, I know some people were putting some resources in the chat. This is just a place where we can continually add to different ideas. So Yeah, if you have something to add in any of those categories, we would love for you to do that as a place just to share, what are those promising practices that are already working within your districts. This would be a good place to do that.
And it doesn't just have to be today. If you find yourself with some extra time somewhere down in the next few days or few weeks, you can always come back to this link and add to this document as well. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, thanks, Lori. I think we'll transition over to the next part of our agenda. As the Manheim Township team kind of eloquently talked about going and visiting districts, we want to do that as part of this network too. We want to be able to organize those types of visit opportunities. And we've talked about them in our first two meetings, and we're excited to share that there's going to be some upcoming opportunities for some site visits that could be potentially happening in your area, but want to make sure that you know about them, and as ones continue to arise, we publish them out to you. So I'm going to have my colleague Christina from IU5 share a little bit about the work that they've done to set these up and how you can become involved with them. Christina?
Thanks, Tim. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Christina Sanders. We have actually 3 different site visits that we have scheduled. So on the agenda, under the school site visits, you will see those 3 documents there. Let me share my screen and I can bring that up so everybody can see that. So as you can see, there's 3. The first one, Cornell School District, is coming up on January 31st. California Area School District is on February 20th. And the Warren County School District is on April 9th. So if you click on any of those links, there are registrations for each of those sites if you are interested in going to visit those. And we actually have Misty Weber from the Warren County School District, and she can talk a little bit about her site visit. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Hi. So I wanted to talk about for our site visit, we're really going to focus on our STEM Academy. This was created right when COVID hit, so real great time to get kids into the lab and see what it was like. But we've continued to grow and build since then. It is a career-focused STEM Academy, so we actually have 2 career pathways the students will focus on, or that's what's on their transcripts. One is being engineering and technology, and the other is arts and communication. So this is a very unique setting where our teacher is a facilitator 100% of the time. And he'll go and work with our students. They can pick the pathways they want to go deeper into, and based on their interests and where they want to go a little and find more information. So we've built it to the point now where we've added more components in the arts and communication. We have a whisper room and a TV studio and a lot of media type of editing. We're starting to see students really fly with that. And then on our engineering and tech side, we are starting to see a lot of interest in pilot. So we have the drone certifications. We also have partnerships with colleges for dual enrollment. CCBC, it's the Community College of Beaver County, and they have a actual airline pilot certification. We have students that work through that, and we are working with different airports to get their flight hours. We have our flight simulator. But the unique thing is when you go in, there could be 30 kids in there, but every single kid is working on something different, and it is based on exactly what they want. And it is a learning experience for our teacher too, because we all know that our students possess a lot of knowledge and things that they love to do. So it's something we've continued to grow through.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Misty, for sharing about your school visit. So that's the Warren County School District. We are very excited to have these 3 site visits available for anybody to go and look at. They're doing some awesome work with SCL practices. So If you are interested in having your district be a host for a school visit, on the agenda, there is a link to the school visit open house sign up form, and you can put in your district, maybe what time of the year would be good for you, and you can get all sorts of your information there so that way we can get in contact with you and set up a site visit for everybody. I'll pass it back to you, Tim.
All right, thanks, Christina. Yeah, so again, looking to expand that. Those are just kind of the first 3 that we have scheduled, but there's some others in the works that you can see on that sign-up sheet. So our point of contact folks around the state will be reaching out to you if you're interested in having a site visit. Somebody will get in touch with you specifically, and that point of contact will work through a lot of the logistics to make it all work. So we don't want to put it all on the district as to work through all of that. You know, your point of contact will help with the registration, help with setting up the logistics to make sure it all runs smoothly. So thanks, Christina, for sharing that. Excited to hear about those upcoming visits in the near future. And we want to share some other opportunities to find these resources, where to find more information. My colleague, Kendi from IU14 over in Berks County, will share a little bit about the OER Commons. You saw a little bit about that previously, but she wants to go a little bit more in depth as to how to find all the resources that are available in there. So Kendi?
Hey, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I'm excited to share with you a little bit about our OER Commons Student-Centered Learning Resource Group. So I am going to share my screen with you and show you around that a little bit. Tracy did an awesome job giving you a little back peek into it earlier today, but I'm going to dig in just a little bit with you. So to get to this page, if you go to our agenda for today and you scroll down, it's linked right on there for you. So the PASCL resource group on OER Commons is right there. And when you first get into the group, your button here will say something about join this group, and we highly recommend and invite you to join this group. That way you can stay up to date on all of the amazing resources that are in here, as well as contribute resources. This will give you the ability to do that. So when you first get in, this homepage has a whole list, a whole slew of resources here for you. And what we've done to try to keep it really user-friendly is we've pinned the resources that probably we're most excited about, or maybe that are a little bit more time sensitive, to the top for you. So when you first get in, you can see Tracy just talked about that blueprint that we've been so excited about. That's pinned at the top here for you, as well as the communication about today's event that went out. So if you're ever like, am I missing an email that went out, or I need to get that information to someone and I can't find it, we often put it right in here for you. So feel free to join this group and put a little star on it. That way you can always get back to it, because this is where we put everything. In the chat, people were talking about the Dr. Catlin Tucker event that's coming up, being hosted by IU13, and we have that right in here for you. So let me show you as an example what kind of resources you will find in this resource group. So you'll see over here, we have some folders. So you'll find things in here, things from events that are coming up through the Student-Centered Learning Network, as well as professional learning resources and some classroom level resources. So if I went over here and I clicked on this one about the Dr. Catlin Tucker visit coming from IU13, I can open it up, and my computer is a little laggy today. I apologize. It gives a brief description, but if you press the View Resource button, it will give you all of the details that you need around that description, as well as the link to the flyer. So it looks like Dr. Catlin Tucker's coming in June. You can see I put some of the information in here for you too, as well as the registration. And there's lots more details on that flyer where you can view and download it right here. So all of these things are linked right on this website for you. We are also excited. So if you visited in the past and you thought there's like a lot of like announcements on here, we want something a little bit more like classroom accessible or usable. That's what we've been doing. We've been working really hard, thanks to our colleagues across the state, to add really usable things to this repository, to the student-centered learning group. So if I go to like classroom level resources, for example, if you're a teacher, here's 3 classroom level instructional strategies that work with any subject area that will promote student-centered learning in your classroom. And you can go get those right there. You can click on it and learn more about it. Also, when you go into it, don't forget, like Tracy mentioned earlier, to give it your star rating at the top once you try it, because we want that feedback from you. We have a little scale down here so you can see how to rate it based on how your experience with it in the classroom. So we would try to make things really, oh, why did it do that? Really useful and accessible and usable for everyone. Come on, computer. Here we go. Also, if you are a school administrator or a facilitator of professional learning, very generously, IUs 13 and 21 contributed. I know people were asking, we want to know more about IU 13's station rotation model and what IU 21 is doing with station rotation. Well, they have generously given their slides to you, and you can get those right here, and you can see what they've been doing with it, and you know, use them with your teachers. That's why it's there. These are resources for everyone to be using. But obviously, if you're like, I don't want to facilitate this, then reach back out to your IU people and we'll help you with that. But so we do have some things in here for professional learning, as well as classroom level, marketing resources, and all of that. Now, if you're thinking, I have something that I would love to share in this group. Maybe you have a really nice walkthrough document that you used when you did some walkthroughs for student-centered learning in your school. Or maybe you saw an amazing lesson in one of your classrooms and you're like, we could pop that lesson plan up here. We want those resources. We are really trying to build this community and build this group up to have so many resources from anyone who comes. So if you're interested, all you have to do is click, I put it down here in a folder. It's also one of our pinned posts. Add a resource to the PA Student-Centered Learning group, and it will give you a Google form that you can fill out. And we would love to add your resource to this group so that people across the state can benefit from your expertise and from your experience. So again, oh, and you know what else? We also linked that for you right here in the agenda. So if you on the top of your head, you're like, oh, we've got something that we could contribute, pop it right there. We are looking for things to share, to add. We don't want this just to be from the IU lens. We want this to be things that are tried and true that our districts and our schools are using to champion student-centered learning across the state. So both those links are right here for you to get into the resource group. Please join the resource group. You just have to set up a free OER Commons account. It's really, really easy. And then there's also that submission form, because we want your things. We want your resources for that resource group. All right, and I'm just double checking the chat. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. I'll give like a minute of wait time.
Just a
Not even-
reminder too, Kendi, as you're on that page, those Unleashing Learner Potential, those are those wonderful stories that have been contributed to us from throughout the state. You've heard some of them within these network meetings. Highly recommend jumping into that and checking out some of those stories. Maybe some resonate with you and you can reach out to your POC and or that district and kind of talk to them about how they got started with their journey. And Kendi, thank you. You've been doing such an amazing job with getting everything in this OER Commons. She's really worked hard to make sure these resources are available to everyone.
And we want more. We want more love. Okay, well, I don't see any questions coming in the chat. So at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Josh Eckert. He's going to talk about our upcoming SCL Summit at P&C. And I will stop sharing my screen.
All right, thank you, Kendi. So I will start sharing my screen. This is our page for the P&C summits, which started last year. And this year, for the first time, we're adding the Student-Centered Learning Summit. So I'm going to drop a link to this page in the chat for you to access. So the the Student-Centered Learning Summit is going to be at the Hotel Hershey the afternoon of Monday, February 10th. So it'll be at 1:30 to 4, starting with a keynote from Kareem Farah of Modern Classrooms Project. And the morning of the Monday morning, we're going to have the Online Learning Summit, which did run last year, was a huge success, and is connected very deeply to student-centered learning. So we're going to have both of those on Monday, February 10th. We're also going to be having a PASCL table set up during the Student-Centered Learning Summit. So if you'd like to come meet some of us in person, get access to some resources such as the OER resources that Kenny was just talking about, please do that as well. If you have not registered yet for P&C, it is coming up very soon. Lodging especially is getting complicated, so I'd encourage you to register soon. And I'm going to also drop the link to register in the chat as well. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'm happy to answer them.
All right. Thanks so much, Josh, for sharing, and Kendi as well for sharing. As we kind of work our way towards the end of our time we have together here, we always want to leave our meetings with kind of a call to action for you. So my colleague Ken Zimmerman is going to talk about what we would like for you to do maybe in the coming days, weeks, or months around student-centered learning in your district.
All right, thanks, Tim. So it's been awesome to be able to be part of the network today. And what did you hear? So in the beginning, you were reminded about why we exist, that this Pennsylvania Student-Centered Learning Network exists to be able to pull you together, to collaborate with each other, to be able to share resources with each other, for you to connect with one another and go see each other's experiences, as also a place to share resources for each other, things that you can actually use in today's classrooms. In addition, we unveiled the PASCL Blueprint. So just like last year when we unveiled the official definitions of what is student-centered learning and what are our buckets of blended learning, online learning, and personalized learning, the blueprint is a guide for you to be able to step in, to be able to determine, help you with your action planning of how to get started. Or if you have gotten started, what are some other things that you could be considering and thinking about in order to go deeper and go more systemically across your organization? So there's so many resources within the blueprint for you to utilize that you saw today. And the one thing that we said in the very beginning and that the blueprint encourages is, number one, gather your team. So we'd like you to start thinking about who is your team. We know that some of you are attending the network meetings since last May on an individual basis. We also know that some of you are attending together with a partner or teacher and administrator or a couple administrators. And the goal of the network is to be able to resource you, to be able to help you to collaborate and get started if you've not gotten started in step one of gathering your team and really start looking at your practices and what you might want to focus on to be able to do student-centered learning in your districts and be part of the student-centered learning environment within teaching and learning. So what we would like you to think about is who might be on your team. In future network meetings, we're going to have different activities to help support you, the team. So whether that team continues to be you and you solely, we absolutely will support you and you are welcome moving forward. If your team is a couple of you, that's fantastic. If your team is a few administrators and some teachers or some teacher leaders, some instructional coaches, fantastic. If it's your entire district team, fantastic. We're here to support you. So we want you to start thinking about who might be on your team so that as we start to work through action planning for you to support you, taking these steps into providing a student-centered learning experience for your teachers and your students, we want you to think about who might be on your team to be able to participate in some of these events. You heard today that we're offering site visits. So those site visits are for your team, for you to be able to participate in. So the group will continually be a time for us to collaborate and resource share with one another, but it's also a time to be able to dig in, to start investigating what you want to do as a district, what you want to do in your classrooms, to be able to really enhance teaching and learning through the student-centered learning umbrella. So start thinking about that, and in our future SCL meetings, we'll be reaching out for your teams. Back to you, Tim.
Thanks, Ken, for putting that cherry on top of today's meeting. We really hope that the momentum and the discussions that started here today can continue on. And we'll get back together as a group. Our next meeting will be on March 6th. We're going to move it to the morning time period and hopefully allow for a little bit more time. So again, sometimes the end of the day can be a little bit tricky. So our next meeting time together, you can see it on the agenda, is March 6th from 9 to 11 a.m. And then we'll have our concluding meeting on June 5th from 9 to 11 a.m. So as Ken had mentioned, we would love for you to kind of develop those teams. We might be asking you for who they are and what role they might play at future meetings, because again, we want to try to connect you with each other based upon where you're at with student-centered learning. As always, we want these meetings to be as meaningful to you as possible. So your feedback is really important to us. So we've kind of toyed around with different, not only promising practices, but problems of practices as well. So in the chat and on the agenda, you'll find a feedback survey where we would love just for you to take a couple minutes and say, you know what, I would love to learn more about this, or I'd love to use breakout rooms to talk about this. Whatever it might be, your feedback is really important to us and can be invaluable, because our network team meets every few weeks to talk about what upcoming meetings look like. And we value that feedback, and we'll look at that before we plan our next meeting. So we were experimenting too with how best to get people registered and how to get the Zoom links out, getting some emails from some of you. We'll try to work through that to make it a little bit easier. We were hoping by creating a network registration Zoom link, it might make it easier, and potentially it might have actually made it a little bit more difficult and some hoops for you to jump through to get to today's link. So we'll work through that process. We're looking at how we can get regular communications out to you, so it's not just coming from my email address. So we're looking at creating some types of larger scale regular announcements that can come out. So it's not just about these network meetings, but it's about site visits that are happening. It's about articles that are being published by our colleagues. Whatever it might be, we're hoping to create a regular stream of communication so you can stay updated with all things student-centered learning around the state. So with that, unless any of my colleagues have anything else to add, I want to thank you all so much for being here today. And again, my team here with me as the network, if anybody else has anything to add, let me know. Otherwise, again, I think, again, we had a great time today talking through some of these things, making connections, and we hope to continue that momentum, and we hope to see you back together on March 6th, or potentially at one of those site visits before that time period. So thanks again. Stay warm, everyone. Dig out of that snow that's around your house, and safe travels home today. Bye, everybody.